The rest away. Yeah.
But it's still do right by you. It won't excuse all of the other bad behavior. But at the end of the day, if we give the lands, then that's what matters. Good morning. It is a delight to have you here in worship with us this morning. I have a couple announcements. If you have an announcement, please go ahead and stand up so that we can be sure that you're seen and heard. We have a couple things I want to remind you of that are coming up and some special events and so forth. One is today, just if there happen to be any kids in your life who would like to go to a trunk or treat event, Sherwood is having one in their parking lot this afternoon. It's going to go from 4 to 6. So if you happen to have any kids or in your family or life who would be interested to go, there should be some very cleverly decorated trunks and cars out there wanting to distribute candy to kids. They'd be welcome to go at that time. Next Sunday, we will be observing All Saints Sunday, which is the time in the church's calendar and life when we particularly lift up and remember those that have preceded us in faith. So if there's anyone in your family or life this year who has passed away, who you would like to be sure are remembered in that service, please remember their name and bring that name with you, and we'll invoke their spirit in service as we remember that we are not on this journey alone, but there are many who've gone ahead of us, and there will be others that follow behind us on this road. In a couple weeks' time, on Sunday the 19th of November, there will be a single joint service at 10 a.m. at the Sherwood Church. Everyone from Mountain Home is encouraged to go and attend there because following the service there will be a turkey supper. So if you would like to help with the turkey dinner, there will be opportunity for you to bring a potluck side dish or something like that. The turkeys are going to be done there at Sherwood, but you can bring a side dish for a turkey supper to join in the service and have some food. It will be a joint worship service. Carol McKenna is going to be helping with the leading of the service along with Eden and some people from Sherwood as well. So I hope to see, well, I won't be there, but I hope many of you will be attending the service that weekend while I'm away. And then, of course, we're moving on toward the Advent season soon as well. So we'll be looking for people to participate in the Advent worship leadership, the candle lighting and so forth when the time for that comes. We have a bazaar, which I wonder if there's someone from the bazaar committee who wants to say something about that.
Yep, in 2 weeks from yesterday, we're still looking for baked goods, full size, if you do, it's It's 10 to 2 on Saturday, November 11th, Memorial or Veterans Day, okay. And full-size bagel, please note if you have nuts in your offerings, so
Yeah.
just so people can be aware of allergies.
When do you want it, like at the church one?
Thursday or Friday?
Friday.
Friday like at noon, so because if you don't package it, we will do it for you. So also cookies to have.
That's it?
Yeah, cookies, candy, fudge.
All right, lots of baked goods for the bazaar. The bazaar is going to be a great time. Also, come for the bazaar yourself. Come and get some Christmas gifts or holiday gifts for other folks. Yes, Tom.
I would appreciate any content for the newsletter for November by the end of today, so I can get it out tomorrow before Halloween.
All right, newsletter content, if you can, get it to Tom today so that he can go out here to remind people of all the special events we got going on.
Yeah, if there are any scheduled events, I need to know so I can get it in the calendar. events.
Yeah, we'll make sure that that is the case. Sherry, did you have an announcement you wanted to?
Yes, I do. The Charge Conference is scheduled 1 month from today, and November 28th. One of the items of the charge is electing 2024 leaders' positions. We have a rotational procedure, and we're very fortunate that some of you have extended their duties, like Ryan with finance. So please let us know if you would like to nominate anyone from any of these positions. And thank you for considering, praying, and committing to our church. Thanks.
Thank you, Sherry. Excellent. And also, that's a good time to remember that the Charge Conference is open to everyone. It's on the Tuesday, November 28th in the evening. An email will go out. It will be available either via Zoom, or you can attend the in-person gathering, which will be inside the Sherwood Sanctuary, if you want to be at the Church Conference. It's a great time to reconnect and be part of the broad business of both our local congregation, but also the region, what's going on in our region. So, are there any other announcements this morning? All right, seeing no further announcements, I invite you to take a deep breath with me. And let us join our hearts and minds together in the worship of the living Lord.
Good morning.
Good
If you
morning.
join me, stand, if you're able, to the call to worship. This is the first and greatest instruction.
We must love the Great Spirit from deep within, with the strength of our arms, with the thoughts of our minds, with the courage of our hearts.
And the second instruction is like the first.
We must love our fellow human beings in the same way we love ourselves.
Remain standing for the song, number 22 in the big hymnal.
92.
92. 92. For the beauty of the earth.
For the beauty of the earth, for the glory of the skies, for the love which from our birth over and
Now, if you join me in the prayer of confession.
Creator, we acknowledge that we have not loved you from deep within, for our hearts are filled with anxiety. Creator, we acknowledge that we have not loved you with the strength of our arms, for we have used our labor mainly to enrich ourselves. Creator, we acknowledge that we have not loved you with the thoughts of our minds, for we have filled our hours with distractions. Creator, we acknowledge that we have not loved you with the courage of our hearts, for we have refused to take risks in pursuing justice. Creator, we acknowledge that we have not loved our fellow human beings in the same way we love ourselves, for we have ignored suffering to protect our comfort. Forgive us, God, and lead us back to your original instructions. The incredible news of the gospel is that we, having been baptized into a life, death, and resurrection like Christ's, have therefore been united with him in his ministry. The peace that he has made with heaven and with earth is for us to enjoy and to share. The peace of Jesus Christ be with you.
And also with you.
Let's share that peace with our neighbors. Join me in the response to the peace. Be glad and rejoice in the Lord our God.
Who pours down grace in abundance.
All right, now it's our you pick time. What do we have today? Yes? 140. 140 in the big hymnal. And what verses? 1 and 2. Great is thy faithfulness, 1 and 2. Morning is broken. 145, 1 and 3.
Morning has broken like the first morning. Blackbird has spoken like the first bird. Praise for the singing, praise for the morning, praise for the springing,
If you can now turn to Psalm 90 on page 104. Thank you. Jumping the gun, yeah.
Let's say 144 right next to it.
144, this is my father's world. Mom,
I think we're
sorry.
gonna have to change books today.
This is my Father's world, and to my listening ears, all nature sings, and round me rings the music of the spheres. This is my Father's world, I rest me in the thought of rocks and trees, of skies and seas, His hand the wonders wrought. This is my Father's world. Oh, let me never forget that though the wrong seems oft so strong, God is the ruler yet. This is my Father's world. Why should my heart be sad? The Lord is King, let the heavens ring. God reigns, let the earth be glad.
Okay. All right, now we can turn to Psalm 90, page 809. All right, okay. All right, let's practice.
God, you are my refuge and my strength, a present help in trouble. God, you are my refuge and my strength, a present help in trouble.
Lord, you have been our dwelling place in all generations.
Before the mountains were brought forth, or ever you had formed the earth and the world, from everlasting to everlasting, you are God.
You turn us back to the dust and say, turn back, O mortal ones.
For 1,000 years in your sight are but as yesterday when it is past, or as a watch in the night.
You sweep them away. They are like a dream, like grass which is renewed in the morning.
In the morning it flourishes and is renewed. In the evening it fades and withers. God, you are my refuge and my strength, a present help in trouble.
For we are consumed by your anger, by your wrath we are overwhelmed.
You have set our iniquities before you, our secret sins in the light of your countenance.
For all our days pass away under your wrath. Our years come to an end like a sigh.
The years of our life are 70, or even by reason of strength 80. Yet their span is but toil and trouble. They are soon gone, and we fly away.
Who considers the power of your anger, the awesomeness of your wrath?
So teach us to number our days, that we may receive a heart of wisdom. God, you are my refuge and my strength, a present help in trouble.
Return, O Lord, how long? Have pity on your servants.
Satisfy us in the morning with your steadfast love, that we may rejoice and be glad all our days.
Make us glad as many days as you have afflicted us, and as many years as we have seen evil.
Let your work be manifest to your servants, and your glorious power to their children.
Let the favor of the Lord our God be upon us, and establish the work of our hands.
Yes, establish the work of our hands. God, you are my refuge and my strength, a present help in trouble. That piece of special music this morning was a medley of As the Deer and Fairest Lord Jesus. Thank you very much for that. As it has been our practice all fall, we are going to have a poem in worship by an Indigenous author. This is Tour of a Salmonberry by Rena Priest. A salmonberry is a luminous spiral, a golden basket woven of sunshine, water, and birdsong. I'm told that the birds sing so sweet because of all the berries they eat, and that is how you can have a sweet voice too. In my native language, the word for salmonberry is alile. In Sanskrit, lila means God plays. Salmonberries sometimes look that way. Every year they debut spectacular in the landscape, worthy of their genus name Rubus spectabilis, meaning red sight worth seeing. Each druplet holds a seed and the shimmering secret held by rain of how to rise, float above the earth, feel the sun, and return. And our scripture reading today comes from the Gospel according to Matthew, starting in the 22nd chapter of that book, in the 34th verse. I invite you to listen now for the word of the Lord. When the separated ones heard how Jesus silenced the upright ones, they put their heads together and came up with a plan. One of them, who was an expert in tribal law, would put him to the test. The expert came to him. "Wisdom keeper," he asked, "which instruction in our tribal law stands first?" Creator sets free answered him, "You must love the Great Spirit from deep within, the strength of your arms, the thoughts of your mind, and the courage of your heart. This is the first and the greatest instruction. The second is like the first," he added. "You must love your fellow human beings in the same way you love yourselves. The law and the words of the prophets all find their full meaning in these two instructions." This is the word of the Lord.
Thanks be to God.
Today it is my tremendous privilege to invite up to speak with you today a friend and a leader and a teacher Jalene Joseph. She is the executive director of the Native Wellness Institute. The Native Wellness Institute works all over the world, actually, with Indigenous people as far as New Zealand and the First Nations peoples of Canada, as well as here in the United States, for health and wellness for Indigenous people. And locally, one of their initiatives has been an organization called the Future Generations Collaborative, with whom I have had the privilege of working in recent years. Future Generations Collaborative is a collaborative of dozens of different Native groups and organizations working for health and wellness issues for Native people, particularly in the Portland metro area, which has one of the largest urban Native American populations in the United States. They began some of their work a little over a decade ago with Multnomah County working on fetal alcohol syndrome in children, but also in houselessness issues and other health issues that arise parallel to that. And one of their most inspiring projects is the project of Barbie's Village, which I have mentioned to you on several occasions, is the goal to build a village of tiny homes for Native American families, especially mothers with children, on the land of the formal Laurelhurst Presbyterian Church, which the Presbytery is presently in the process of working to gift to Future Generations Collaborative as a land back action, as a reparative action. That action, in fact, will take place hopefully this Friday, November 3rd. So I solicit all your prayers and support for the church to have the courage she needs to do the right thing and to go forward with something we've been working on for years. Jalene is an incredibly wise and inspiring person. Her patience and her sense of humor and her creativity she has shown in the last several years as I've gotten to work with her, finding ways around obstacles and ways to collaborate with people very different from herself, while remaining true to herself and her traditions, has been a tremendous gift to me, and I think it will be a gift to our congregation. So I welcome her now to come and share her message with us.
Good morning. You can all hear me okay. Thank you, Eric, for the opportunity to be here and for that wonderful introduction. As Eric said, my name is Jalene Joseph, and my people, the federal government calls us gros ventre, which is actually a French word, and because some of our first contact was with the French. And in our language, my tribe, we call ourselves Aani, or Aaninin, which translates to white clay in the English language. And this is my second talk today, and earlier I was sharing how, I remember as a young girl, sitting with my grandparents and watching them talk in sign language, and I was just fascinated by that. And they would talk in sign language and laugh, and talk in sign language and laugh. And so I started learning, picking that up and learning things. And so every tribal nation had a sign for who their people were, because as we traveled and traded, we all didn't speak the same language, right? So we had the sign language was the common language, and we would tell everybody, who we are. So the sign for my people actually is this. This is the sign for my people, which means people by the waterfall. So that's what that means. However, it's interesting, when we came upon the French, like I said, they were some of our first contact, when we told them who we were, I think they got it all mixed up, or they thought we were saying something else, because if anybody knows French in here, gros ventre in French means big belly. Isn't that funny? So that's what we are known by the federal government is gros ventre. And I'm sure the French pronounce it, gros ventre or whatever. So this is another reason why we try to call ourselves Aani, explaining ourselves in our own language. So along with that sign language, I also want to share a couple of other things. And you can do this with me. So if everybody goes like this, and then go like this. So we all just said, good morning. Good morning. So this is the sun rising. This means good morning. Okay, now you do this with me. So go like this, and then go like this. So this is what you all are in here. So guess what we're saying now? Good Good looking. Okay, so I just share those couple of things because we're kind of entering into the seasons where like people think about us, right? Kind of Halloween and then into Thanksgiving. And I share that because people think of us around Halloween because sometimes you see people dressed up as us as their Halloween costumes, right? And in part that's because of ignorance and, you know, lack of awareness. And I remember one Halloween a few years ago, well, before the pandemic, these trick-or-treaters came to our door, you know, and the little kids were dressed, you know, like Native Americans. And the fake fringes and fake feathers and all that kind of stuff. And, you know, they're like 5 or 6. They don't know better. But their parents were standing behind them. And so I'm always engaging with the trick-or-treaters, like, oh, what are you? What are you? And so when I ask them, you know, oh, what are you dressed as? And they're like, we're Native Americans. And I go, oh, you dressed as me for Halloween? And they're just like looking at me. But it was more for their parents to hear that, right? But when we're, you know, sold in a package in a Halloween store to dress as stereotypical Native Americans, like this is really harmful and detrimental for our people. And that's why I'm saying it here, because when we know better, we can do better, right? And so we can think about, you know, our children, our grandchildren, our nieces and nephews, and to help them understand why it's detrimental, right? And so, when we're only thought of as people that we can dress up for Halloween, in part what's happening is we're also being historicized, right? And what I mean by that is we're only thinking about Native people from a historical perspective, almost like we're not here today. And there's lots of people that don't realize that we're still here today, right? Like we're still here today, contributing to our communities and, you know, living lives in a good way. And related to that is the Thanksgiving holiday, another time when people think about us, because we're taught in school, my kids were taught the same thing in school, I was taught the same thing in school, that the Native Americans and Pilgrims came together and they had this amazing dinner, and you know, today we call it Thanksgiving. And it's much more complex than that, right? And here in the US, what we're taught in the school systems like is far from the truth of what really happened. So the organization that I work for is called the Native Wellness Institute. I'm one of the founders. Myself and a couple of handfuls of people founded this organization almost 24 years ago, even though we had been doing this work for many, many decades before that. I'm 57, I'm gonna be 58 on December 30th, and I have been doing this kind of work since I was 19 years old. For many, many decades, I've been serving my people. And the reason we exist as an organization is because of the lasting impacts of colonization. And what that contributed to our people was historical and intergenerational trauma, right? What colonization did was people coming into our communities and not allowing us to pray like we've prayed for thousands and thousands of years. And this is my second church service for today. And one of the things I'm thinking about is just like, wow, like these are just like how we do things, you know, the songs that we sing and the prayers that we do. But why were ours labeled as savage? Why were ours outlawed? And we weren't able to sing and we weren't able to pray to the Creator like you all get to do. Like it was outlawed for our people to do that until the 1970s, when a federal law was changed that allowed us to pray and to sing, just like you all get to do every Sunday and every day. These are some of the lasting impacts of colonization. What colonization did was, yes, it took our land, and then it outlawed the way that we prayed and the way that we lived. It stole our children and sent them off to boarding school. And these aren't things that happened like way back in the 16 or 17 or 1800s. My mom went to boarding school. My mom, as did all of her siblings, right? I attended my youngest aunt, who my youngest aunt just turned 70, I attended her high school graduation in boarding school. So these aren't that long ago. So this is why the work that my organization does, this is why we exist, because we help our people to understand what colonization did, and we help our people to heal, because we know that where there has been trauma, healing is the answer. So we try to help our own people connect the dots between trauma and behaviors, and behavior and healing. So our local project that we work on with the Future Generations Collaborative, we started back in 2012, really looking at data from Multnomah County Health Department that showed high rates of substance abuse with women having children. And this is a stereotype that impacts our people, right? A lot of times people think, oh, Native Americans, they're always drinking or they're always drunk. That's a stereotype of our people. Well, one of the reasons that's there is because when colonization happened and we were forcibly removed from our traditional homelands and placed onto reservations, we were forced onto those reservations, and we were guarded by military or other government forces, guarded because we could not leave. My grandmother and my mother have stories where from where we lived on the southern end of our reservation to go to the north end is 30 miles by horse and wagon, because my grandparents never owned vehicles or never drove for their whole lives. But they would travel 5 days and 5 nights, 30 miles, to leave the reservation to go visit. But they had to get approval from an Indian agent. And I remember growing up hearing stories where they would travel for 5 days and nights only to be told no, and they would have to turn around and travel 5 days and nights back home. This is another example of colonization and the ongoing oppression. Well, one thing that happened to keep us on these reservations, especially for the men, where they wouldn't revolt and leave the reservation anyway, when they gave us our food rations, because we couldn't hunt or care for our own selves, when they gave us food rations, in those boxes was whiskey. And that was intended for the men to intentionally subdue them so they wouldn't fight back and so they wouldn't leave the reservation anyway. So we call this, chemical warfare, right? Because of what it did to our people. And we've never had alcohol in our bodies before. We never had alcohol as a part of who we were as a people. So some of you in here, your people have had alcohol for thousands and thousands of years, right? We have only had alcohol for a few hundreds of years. And then people learned how to use that to numb their pain and their hurt from their whole lifeways being turned upside down. So the work of the Future Generations Collaborative is about helping our people to heal. It's about helping our people to deal with the hurt and pain that they may have inside of them, and to deal with that in more constructive and positive ways. So we do this work in community, with community. And so we have community members that we call elders and natural helpers. And we bring them in and we train them, and they help us to be the eyes and the ears of our community. They help us to connect and to do this work in the community. Well, one of our natural helpers was named Barbie, and her husband was named Ken. So we always joke we had our own way of Barbie and Ken. And they had 4 children. And they experienced homelessness themselves, and yet they continued to be of service and to volunteer their time and to give back to the community. Well, 5 years ago, Barbie passed away from a brain aneurysm shortly after her 4th child was born. And she was just this amazing human being who she was so proud to be of service to our community. And one of the areas that she was most touched by was helping our people get off the streets, to help our people who were homeless. And she always felt it was so ironic how could tribal people in our own lands be homeless and be houseless. And so after she passed, we wanted to do something to keep her legacy alive. And so this is where the vision of Barbie's Village came from, and why we call it Barbie's Village. It's after Barbie. And so we've never done this before. We didn't know what to do, and people would say, go talk to these people, go talk to these people. Pretty soon, we would say, God, our creator, heard our prayers, and he brought people together, including Eric and many others from many churches. And we've been talking now for over 2 years about the former Laurelhurst Presbyterian Church being gifted to the Future Generations Collaborative to build Barbie's Village. So in that time, we've talked to neighbors and we've presented at neighborhood associations and we've met with all these different layers within the Presbyterian Church. I think I'm still trying to figure out all their leadership structure and what they are too, it sounds like, you know, doing all these different presentations and, you know, coming up with challenge after challenge and barrier after barrier. And we always say at the Future Generations Collaborative that we're like water, right? So when we come upon this barrier, then we find a way around it or over it or under it or through it. And that's what we've been doing for the past 2.5 years. I feel like in part what we've been doing as well is bringing 2 different thought processes and 2 different value systems together. And I really think that has been a blessing in itself. There's been many blessings that have come from this work together. You know, some of the blessings are getting to know Eric and his other colleagues, right? And when we take the time to get to know each other, when we take the time to share a meal together, or we take the time to check in, because a lot of our meetings have been on Zoom, you know, because of the pandemic and everything. When we take the time to do that, it helps the division that we often see and feel in our world become smaller. And I shared earlier, any day of the week, you can turn the TV on, and even the news, and even if you just watch for 5 minutes, we see the division around the world, right? We see the division around the world. We see the division in our own neighborhood and communities and state. And sometimes, you know, I'm a resident of the United States of America, but on a lot of days it doesn't seem very united, right? And even with these church systems that we've been working with, it certainly doesn't feel united as well. And so in a lot of the spaces, actually, some of my takeaways from the meetings that I'm in is like, I don't feel the presence of God in these spaces. But what I feel though is the judgment and maybe even the resentment and the anger. So that has also been a very eye-opening experience for me personally, you know, going through this process. However, I and my colleagues and I have the strong faith in God. We have the strong faith that the work of God is going to prevail and that this gift is going to happen. So on Friday, November 3rd, is when that vote will take place. And what that will allow us to do is to build this, what we call a tiny, tiny home village. It's probably going to be like 6 tiny homes that are going to house Native women with small children or Native families with small children that will be able to wrap around and to give them the love and the support that they need to help them to be, you know, continue to be positive contributing members of society. And so that is the vision and the goal of Barbie's Village. And it's been, you know, an honor to do this work. So I wasn't going to share it, but I am going to share it. I shared a story last time, and I'm going to end with this. Where I come from, my reservation is actually called the Fort Belknap Indian Community. We're trying to change that name as well because Belknap was like an army general that wasn't a very good guy. And but that's part of colonization, right? People put their name on all kinds of things, even like Mount St. Helens and Mount Hood. Like they already had names, right? But people thought they should have their name. Anyway, where I come from, we have a herd of buffalo. We're buffalo people. And so years ago, I was like 18. So like 40 years ago, wow, that seems like such a long time ago. It was. I just realized that, oh, that's a long time ago. Anyway, we were getting ready for one of our tribal celebrations, and what we do, like when people come to celebrate with us, we feed them. So we were going to harvest 2 buffalo for this tribal celebration and give like these meats away to all the camps that are going to be there. So one of my uncles was in charge of the hunt, and he got to choose who was going to go out to get these buffalo. They had like 2 truckloads of hunters. And me and my sisters and cousins, we wanted to go along just to watch. So we were like way far away. And this is before cell phones and everything, and there was like a fence line and the buffalo right here, there was a truck here and a truck there, and they needed like a third truck right here to hold them in. So the buffalo are running all over, and all of a sudden they start going like this to us, and I'm driving, and I tell my cousins and sister, I said, look, like they want us to come and be that third truck. They're like, how do you know they're saying that? Anyway, so we bomb over there. We're not hunting on horseback, we're hunting in trucks, the modern day ponies. Anyway, so we get up there, and the buffalo start running, and so we're driving forward, and then they turn around and they go back, and so I didn't have time to turn around, so I had to put it in reverse and then drive backwards, and then turn around and go the other way, put it in drive, go forward. So I kept going forward, back, and all the while I'm getting closer and closer to the herd. And then finally the big bull of the herd turned and started charging our truck. And I'm just sitting there like watching this herd of buffalo come, and I the only thing I could think of in that moment was to honk the horn. So I honked the horn, and the herd just like turned like that. But they slowed down enough for the hunter to get the first one. So the buffalo dropped, and the other buffalo stopped and turned around and came back, and they circled that buffalo. And with their horns on both sides, they picked it back up. And the buffalo got back up, and they stayed circled around him and ran with him until he finally fell for the last time. And it was such a profound experience. And I'm sharing it because sometimes what happens is we go down, right? Maybe somebody dies in our family, or maybe another tragedy happens. Maybe our land is stolen and our language is outlawed and our ways of praying is outlawed. We go down, right? And sometimes we need to be circled, and we need to be lifted back up. And I feel if everybody knew that story, or if everybody did that, like our world would be a very different place, right? And we didn't judge who needed to be circled and who needed to be lifted up. We only looked at, wow, somebody is down, and we need to circle them and lift them back up. This is in part how I define compassion. And I feel like in some of the spaces that I've been in, and helping Barbie's Village become a reality, that compassion has been missing. And what we have tried to do is to show by living by our values of what compassion is, and what love is, and what unconditional love is. And so I'm just honored to come and be a part of this space. I hope that maybe something I shared like inspires you or encourages you to continue to, learn more about our people. We learn about your people like every day because of the systems that we have to work in. And sometimes I know part of that disconnect between us is because we don't know each other. So I hope that I have done my people and my community well, and maybe for some of you this is the first time meeting a real live Native person. But I'm grateful for you being here today and taking this time to fill your heart with the Spirit of God. And I hope that when you leave here today that you get to enjoy this beautiful sunshine and continue to spread goodness out there. Thank you.
We love because God loved us first. We give because God has given us everything. And so I invite you to give generously to our community to help support not just the internal workings of our church, but the ministry we can do for the community and the world around us. Everything that you give is a gift and a blessing, and therefore I ask you to join me in the response to the offering. The root of evil is the love of money.
Our treasure is the gift of life in Christ.
Indeed. Now I invite you to join me in singing together. We're going to sing from our large hymnal. I don't have the number in front of me. Does someone have the number?
393.
393, thank you. Let us sing together. Stand in body or spirit as we do. Spirit of to conclude by offering just a little piece of some local history that you may not have known as it connects and relates to some of the stories that Jolene was telling us today. In 1851, a colonel in the U.S. cavalry, Anson Dart, was sent to this area to attempt to secure treaties with the peoples who lived here in this region at the time. He went around and found that a number of the groups, including the Tualatin Kalapuya, who this land would belong to them, he secured 18 different treaties with the groups there, who at first were suspicious, and one of the principal requests that was in those treaties was that the U.S., the fur traders and the U.S. government would cease distributing whiskey to the Native American people that were here. That was one of the requests of the tribes. Those treaties, Anson Dart took them, and it took him a couple of years, 1853, he took them back to Congress to go, and Congress tabled them and never saw them, never affirmed them or saw them. 3 years later, after the Oregon Land Claim Donation Act and settlers started to come, some of whom, among the very first, were people who settled right in this region and established, farms which are here today as century farms and 150-year-old farms. Some of those people who came here to settle them called upon that same cavalry that Anson Dart had served, and the cavalry rounded up and took the indigenous people over here and forced them onto the reservations. The Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde were created at that time as they were moved there. And the very first shipment of U.S. government rations that arrived on the reservation arrived with cases of whiskey. So just so you understand how these stories resonate and continue to affect our current area and why, we're still doing the healing work we're doing right now. It's part of the story of this place, and it's important for us to know that. So as we go forth from here, may we go forth as people who know the wisdom of circling up, who know how to see and spot when someone goes down in our midst, and how to care for them and lift them up and bring them back to health and strength. And may we also be blessed to be the recipients of that care when our turn comes, when whatever happens in life brings us low. May you know that there are those here who will help to pick you up and who will carry you. May we be a community that knows this work and does this work faithfully with each other. May the grace of our Lord Jesus Christ, the love of God the Father, and the sweet communion of the Holy Spirit rest, rule, and abide in your hearts this day and every day. To conclude our service, we're going to sing Many and Great, O God. This is a Dakota song, 148 in your hymnals.